Well, good evening. Hello, my friends. Welcome. My table is getting smaller and smaller if you haven't noticed. I don't know what's happening around here. Yes, and my stack is getting bigger and bigger. So we're going to be talking tonight and hopefully getting into the experience of it through meditation of what happens when we empty our mind, when we come to this place of real inner silence, because it's in that state of inner silence that something is allowed to emerge. Capital S, something. Something that is primordial, ancient, infinite, all present, all knowing. It's ourself, capital S. It's the presence of God. And it's this that we are actually crying for, calling for, wanting more than anything else, because this is actually the answer to every question. It's the remedy to every sickness. It's the thing that you're looking for in whatever form you think you're looking for it. It's the substance and essence of everything that is good, true, and beautiful. And the only way that we can know we have everything already, this treasure, this pearl of great price, this wish-fulfilling gem, is that we become emptied and silent. You know, in Christianity, they have this statement that, and they use the Greek terms here, kenosis leads to theosis. Kenosis is the Greek word that means empty. You empty yourself. And theosis is when you become illuminated, where the presence of God fills you, and you see the presence of God as yourself, and you know the presence of God as all living things, even all objects, right? That something unifying emerges in your awareness, that it's right here, right now, and we just haven't seen it because what we're seeing are our beliefs, our thoughts, our opinions, our judgments, our conditioning. And we're projecting that into the space. He says in A Course in Miracles, you think you see something where nothing is, and you see nothing where there is unity. And so he's basically saying that we've carved out these separate things like chairs and bodies and cars and trees and everything else, and we've labeled them and we've given them names, and they seem to exist all on their own. And what we're going to discover tonight is everything is arising from this unified field of pure potentiality, Buddha nature, Christ mind, the presence of God. You can label it any way you'd like. It goes beyond all labels and truth. And the way that we know this is the fact is that we quiet our mind. We actually stop labeling. We stop superimposing our views from past and future states of mind, and we allow the present moment just to be what it is. And as we do this, we have this access to something wonderful, something miraculous, and we're not standing apart from it. We are it, and it is us. And this is what turns this into a moment where, as he says, an ancient hatred becomes a present love. And the reason why he says ancient hatred is because we're standing apart from the all-loving, the all-knowing, our true self. And so in this detached state, this divided or split off state of mind, we've made a world where we are a divided and split off separate being. And we can never join with the all and everything. And so it feels like we're cast out, right? That's the primordial myth. We've been cast out of Eden. And we're wandering in the desert and not finding any lasting pleasure or peace. And he's saying that when you've allowed this old way of thinking and being to drop away, then this present hatred is transformed into a present love. You're ushered back in. You'll realize you've never really left. And so this is what we'll explore tonight. And we're going to do it through some of the teachings of Zen Buddhism and David Hawkins and A Course in Miracles. Okay? So let's get quiet and just breathe. And so let's embody this teaching tonight of dropping away all of our burdens, letting go of all our expectations, coming out of past or future states where we are just paying attention to our breath or to our own awareness or witnessing consciousness in the present moment with an unsealed and open mind as best as we can, letting thoughts come and go, letting images come and go, watching but not involving ourselves with the inner menagerie or outer distractions, just allowing ourselves to sit and watch and be still, allowing this deeper listening, this deeper seeing and knowing to emerge in our awareness. And so it is. See, one of the most sacred prayers in the Old Testament, it's called listen or hear. And it's, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is a unity," right? And the ways that it's been commented on over the centuries is that there's the giving of the two sacred names or divine names. You have Yahweh as one of the names, and you have Elohim as the other name. And these two names feature into the prayer. And what's really being said is Yahweh and Elohim are a unity. And if you go in deeper to these teachings, you'll realize that Yahweh is a symbol of something transcendent. Can't be put into words or language, can't be spoken. And the Elohim literally means the power of all powers, and it's always associated with the forces of nature. And so what this is saying is there is a transcendent aspect of God, and there is an immanent or involved aspect of God, and they're a unity. There's no separation. So God is here is another name of God that's given in the book of Genesis, Yahweh Shammah. God is here. And that was spoken by Jacob as he went to sleep on a rock, and he dreamt that there was a ladder reaching from earth to heaven, and the angels were ascending and descending. Do you know this story? And he wakes up from his dream and he goes, "The Lord is in this place, and I knew it not." In other words, this joining of above and below, heaven and earth, the infinite and the finite, the transcendent and the immanent, the absolute and the relative, formless and form, eternity and time. This has been referred to in Buddhism as the great secret, the great teaching. And this is because when you realize this teaching, you realize you're in the infinite already. There's no place you can go outside of the infinite. And so as we become more and more willing, we become more and more sensitive to the fact that we're already included in this. We are already this. So this unity includes us, each one of us, in this present moment. You have this unity prayer also given in the New Testament, where Jesus says, "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven." Again, joining the above and the below in one will. Now, what makes this realizable is that we pray this prayer, not as a verbal testament, but as an inner choice to experience it. Right? So this is where we begin to have our eyes opened to the experience of what's really going on here. So in Buddhism, as we'll see, everything is chanting the name of Buddha. The rivers are chanting the name of Buddha. Everything that is a sutra. And we're going to see how this plays out in a nice way. The word sutra means sacred teaching or scripture. And I don't know if you've ever seen it. They had a display of this artist at Murakami a couple of years ago, Japanese artist. And he was drawing these beautiful, serene, still pictures of candles with their flame, or little ducks with their ducklings. And what you'll see is around the flame was the aura of the flame, but then in the aura was the Heart Sutra, right, written in Japanese, part of the painting. In the wake of the waves where the ducks were swimming in the ocean was the Heart Sutra, in the wake of the waves. Now I chanted the Heart Sutra last week, where it's saying that form is no other than this limitless void, or shunyata. Shunyata is form. In other words, above and below, the limitless and the limited, time and eternity are one. They're the same. What's causing the split is our consciousness. So then when our consciousness is healed or brought back into its inner silence, we will see this too. So Dogen, one of the greatest Zen masters of Japan, says this in his Mountains and Waters Sutra. Now, just a quick comment on mountains and waters. In Zen, as in Taoism, mountains and waters refers to landscape. It means nature. It really means the 10,000 things, all phenomena, right? Everything that you can name or label, everything that you see, right? The whole landscape, including your body. And so he says, mountains and waters right now are the actualization of the ancient Buddha way, each abiding in its phenomenal expression realizes completeness. Because mountains and waters have been active since before the empty eon, they are alive at this moment. The empty eon is before time and space ever was. In other words, the essence of everything is eternal. It's temporarily manifesting in time as chairs and jackets and glasses and shoes and mountains and waters, but there's something eternal and changeless, the innermost essence of whatever's manifesting. That's the Buddha nature, and it's been in reality forever. It doesn't come and go. It will manifest and disappear, but what it really is changeless. That's why in truth there's never anything to fear. There's never loss. There's never death. Because when you come to this place of true seeing, you recognize the one essence that is timeless, changeless, and as Dogen says, in existence in the empty eon before time and space ever were. And that includes the one listening right now. Right? That's why wars and rumors of wars, fear not. Because when you come to this place of true inner knowing, what you are can't be killed, can't be burned by fire, can't be wet by water, can't be stolen or lost or damaged, can't lose its innocence, is never threatened. But see, all of this is just talk until you come to a place of wanting it more than everything else. Because it is everything, it must be wanted more than everything. When you find it, you'll sell everything you have, as Jesus says, and you'll buy that field where the treasure is. And to hell with everything else, because everything else was a dim reflection at best of what you are now living with and as. So Dogen is saying there is a completeness that is always here, and everything is actually singing it, radiating it, giving testimony to it. We just don't have the eyes to see or the ears to hear the completeness that is already. It's infinite, expressing itself. And then, because they have all been this one original self since before form arose, They are emancipation, realization. Now, this is all going to get dialed in so beautifully when we read David Hawkins' experience of waking up to the real self. So I'm laying this out in the Zen teachings, and they might be a little, disconnected or maybe not so clear for you to really anchor into. But keep these in mind when you hear the experience of Hawkins, when he sees this one self as everything, in everything, singing, joining, communicating, loving. And just a little bit more from Dogen. Here's a story. A king in eastern India invited Venerable Prajñātara for a feast. Then the king asked, "All people are reciting sutras. Venerable one, why don't you recite them?" Venerable Prajñātara said, "This humble person, while exhaling, does not follow the various conditions, while inhaling, does not dwell in mental or physical realms. Continuously, I recite 100, 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000,000 volumes of such a sutra, not only 1 or 2 volumes." Dogen said, "Thus I have heard and faithfully receive and respectfully practice it." So here's the clear division or distinction between religious activity, just doing the religious thing, reciting sutras out of a book and chanting, and breathing the teaching. That in every instant of thought, word, or action, the sutra is what you're experiencing. He says, while exhaling or inhaling, I don't dwell in mental or physical realms. I am not confined to conditions. I am open and free as the infinite Buddha nature. In every instant, I choose to identify as the Buddha nature. That's the very purpose of the sutra, is to open you up and usher you back in to this one, all-encompassing, infinite presence that you are. And then Dogen says this, in commenting on the teachings of Prajñātara. Having turned the ancient sutras in each inhale and exhale, now manifesting the ancient Buddhas in each bowel movement, in every place apparent, with every item precious, to express such a principle, how would you speak? Right? Thank you for chanting that sutra. So nothing is left out. I'm not going to repeat it, but he gets as crass and graphic as you can. Everything becomes an expression when the mind has become stilled and aware of the infinite, never-changing, seamless, all-encompassing, instant-by-instant presence of God or Buddha nature. So we want to recognize, as Dogen said, how do you speak? How would you speak when this comes into your being, when you have this veil lifted and you truly see what it all is and you are? How would you speak? So this is a book that we're going to be studying in group session beginning April 15th. So if you're interested, this is The Eye of the I by Dr. David Hawkins. The invite will be up, and if you don't receive emails from my website, You can leave your name at the back. Emails will go out in a few days. But Hawkins writes his experience first in terms of the dark night that he had. He's saying he had years of spiritual struggle. He was trying to wake up. He was trying to know God. He was trying to get enlightened. Deeply practicing, deeply troubled, deeply searching. And he's saying it all became futile. He said eventually it culminated into a state of black despair. Even a retreat into atheism had not brought relief from the ceaseless quest. Reason and intellect were too frail for the formidable task of finding the ultimate truth. The mind itself had been led to a final, agonizing, crushing defeat. You hear this spoken about a lot, that you eventually do reach this breaking point where life as you know it can't go on. And there has to be this death of ego, this death of the old self. And so you have that as the prerequisite to what's to follow. He says, even the will had been stilled. Then an inner voice cried out, if there is a God, I ask him for help. Then all ceased and disappeared into oblivion. The mind and all sense of a personal self disappeared. In a stunning moment, it had been replaced by an infinite, all-encompassing awareness that was radiant, complete, total, silent, and still as the promised essence of all that is. The exquisite splendor, beauty, and peace of divinity shone forth. It was autonomous, final, timeless, perfect, the self of the manifest and the unmanifest, the supreme Godhead, and thus was set forth presence. And now he's going to describe the indescribable, which is one of the gifts of this book. This book, as it says, is sort of this breakthrough in being able to somewhat get into language this infinite experience. And he does a phenomenal job in what's to come. I hope you can appreciate it as much. He says, a hushed silence pervades the surroundings, and motion itself slows and becomes still. All things radiate forth an intense aliveness. Each is aware of every other. The luminous quality of the radiance is overwhelmingly divine in nature. It completely includes everything in its total oneness, so that all things are interconnected and in communication and harmony by means of awareness and by sharing the basic quality of the essence of existence itself. The presence is a continuum that completely occupies what had appeared previously to ordinary perception as vacant, empty space. So now it's the presence filling what seemed to be empty space. You're in the embrace of God. There's no empty space. It's all presence. That inner awareness is not different from the self. It pervades the essence of everything. Awareness is aware of its own awareness. And omnipresence, existence and its expression as both form and formlessness, is God, and prevail equally in all objects, persons, plants, and animals. Everything is united by the divinity of existence. So as you're hearing these words, maybe go through that state of emptying out. Let the thoughts come and go. Watch your mind. Be aware of awareness. Sink down deeper and deeper into this inner silence, because it's there that you will touch the current, this living, breathing, pulsing essence that is always you, that lights your mind. It's just been clouded over, covered over, blocked by our meaningless thinking. Let go of all of that meaninglessness and be still and know. With each breath, you're chanting the sutra of your true self. Relax. That's a very important instruction. Just keep relaxing. Because as David Hawkins had just described, it's this gripping and holding on that keeps us from dropping in. And so whatever's coming up, have the wherewithal and the presence of mind to just say, I let that go. I'll let that go. I'll just relax now. I'll breathe and be still. That's my only focus now. Just to let go. This is your natural inheritance. Take these words in and then allow them to carry you beyond the words. That which is the self is total and complete. It is equally present everywhere. There are no needs, desires, or lack. Neither imperfection nor discord is possible, and every object stands forth like a work of art, a piece of sculpture in perfect beauty and harmony. The holiness of all creation is the reverence held by everything for everything else. All is imbued with a great splendor, and everything is silenced in awe and reverence. The revelation instills an infinite peace and stillness. A glance at the body reveals it to be the same as everything else, unowned, unpossessed by an individual, equal to the furniture or other objects, merely part of all that is. There is nothing personal about the body, and there is no identification with it. It moves about spontaneously, correctly executes its bodily functions, and effortlessly walks and breathes. It is propelled, and its actions are determined and activated by the presence. The body is merely an it, equal to any other thing in the room. Stilled by the silence of the presence, the mind is silent and wordless. No images, concepts, or thoughts occur. There is no one to think them. With no person present, there is neither thinker nor doer. All is happening of itself as an aspect of the presence. Instead of thinking this, there is a self-revealing knowingness that imparts complete understanding and is self-explanatory by its self-effulgent essence. It is though everything speaks silently and presents itself in its entirety in the absolute beauty of its perfection. In so doing, everything manifests its glory and reveals its intrinsic divinity. Right? It chants its sutras. Just a little bit more here. The suffusion of the presence throughout the totality and the essence of all that exists is exquisite in its gentleness, and its touch is like a meltingness, right? So there's a workbook lesson in A Course in Miracles where he says, there's no cruelty in God and none in me. And he says, how can you know infinite gentleness when your thoughts are attacking everything? So this is part of that dying to the ego self, because remember, the ego self is that ancient hatred that's holding itself apart from the everything of this presence. It's attacking it. It's afraid of it. It doesn't want to get close, because if it does, it will melt and turn into nothingness. And so in its efforts to be somebody and to reinforce its identity, it must withdraw, constrict in fear, and attack. And that is the ancient hatred. He says the holiest spot on earth is where an ancient hatred has become a present love. You melt back in. We've talked about this image that he'll give in the Course also. It's this ripple that thinks it's different from the ocean. That somehow this little ripple that is the ocean is standing apart from the ocean and claims that the ocean doesn't exist. All it sees are other ripples and waves and has named them as such, and thinks it knows those ripples and waves as things apart from itself, because there's no such thing as an ocean. But when we get quiet through meditation and we empty all of that senseless self-talk, the ego dissolves. But do you see, and don't kid yourself, as Hawkins went through it, I've described having gone through bouts of it myself, it's going to hang on with everything it's got. You're going to find that there is a wrestling match, another story in the book of Genesis, where Jacob is wrestling with the angel. And he won't let go in that wrestling match. And he says, I won't let go until you tell me your name. And we can use that a little bit in our own talk here, where the name is this underlying unity. I won't let go until you tell me the essence of reality. And that's when Jacob's name was changed to Yisrael. And the way that they play with that is, the word itself means straight to God. So in other words then, the mind has chosen to wrestle with its false self and is changed in the process to a mind that now can access the presence and go straight into God. You're going to go through your wrestling matches. It's going to feel like Hawkins described it in your own different but same with you, with me. But know that whatever that dark night looks like, whatever that struggle may be, always choose to not give up. Don't let go. Don't turn away. Stay until you've reached that place where the bottom falls out of your false self and you come resting back in as that ripple merges with the ocean. It's the whole reason why you're here. Because once that happens, as David Hawkins is giving it to us, you're going to give it. You're going to be it. You're going to prove the existence of this sacred presence permeating all things. So this is a gentleness that we must become gentle in order to understand. He says the inner self is the very core of this melting in. In the ordinary world, only the surfaces of things can be touched. But in the presence, it is the innermost essence of everything that is interspersed with every other thing. This touch, which is the hand of God in its soft gentleness, is at the same time an expression and the abode of infinite power. In its contact with the inner essence of everything, one is aware that the presence is being felt by every other thing, object, or person. And he says something else that's really profound, and you may have had flashes of this experience. There's a part of our consciousness that is tuned into the bandwidth or frequency of being the body identity. And for many of us, that's the end-all and be-all, top floor of what we call reality. But there's another dimension of our consciousness that's already tuned into the all and everything. And that's still going on, even though the part of you that is fully identified as the body self doesn't know that you have this whole other dimension of yourself that's wide awake and present as the higher self. And what Hawkins is saying is, when you wake up as a higher self, you'll be talking to the higher self of that other person. Even though they'll still be on those lower floors of perception, you'll be talking to their higher self, and their higher self will be talking to you. And there'll be something happening at the lower part of that conversation within the body identity that, this kind of feels good. I don't know what's going on, but there's this other place that I'm being addressed, and I can sense it. So he says, most difficult to describe is the interaction among people that moves onto a different level of communication. There is obvious love among everyone. Their speech, however, has changed so that all conversation has become loving and peaceful. The meaning of the words that are heard is not the same as others hear. It is as though there are two different levels of consciousness going on, coming out of the same scenario of form and movement. Two different scripts are being spoken via the same words. The meanings of words themselves have been transformed into a different plane by the higher selves of the people involved with each other. And the communication of understanding is on a higher plane. At the same time, it is clear that the lower selves of the people are unaware of the communication simultaneously going on with their higher selves. People are as though hypnotized into believing the reality of the ordinary selves, which is merely the unwitting acting out of scenarios or roles as in a movie. By ignoring the lesser selves, the higher selves address each other directly, and the person's ordinary selves appear to be unaware of this ongoing higher level conversation. At the same time, people are sensing intuitively that something different from the ordinary is happening, and so feel better. And then finally here, all things are in a state of silent rejoicing that their consciousness is an experience of divinity. Unique to all things is a still, ever-present gratitude that it has been granted the gift of experiencing the presence of God. Like, we might not know it or feel it or think it now, but the fact that you are awareness, experiencing life, is the greatest gift that anyone can ever receive, because that awareness will go back to its source and it will know that it is and has everything and is loved with an infinite, gentle, tender love that wipes away all tears and brings you into a state of peace and glory that exceeds anything that you can think or imagine. And you have it already. This is why we practice, my friends, to empty out, to clear the mirror of our mind of all of this useless stuff that we've been conditioned and overladen by. That's the purpose of meditation. Meditation is the emptying out, the letting go, the becoming completely open, relaxed, and still, very watchful, very clear. And as a result of that, there's a higher circuitry of consciousness that you'll naturally begin to reconnect to. And you'll go on to that higher bandwidth. And that inner eye will open. And you'll begin to converse and communicate in these more subtle and holy dimensions of being. And you're guided by this presence. Buddha, Christ, Allah, whatever way resonates, there is this presence, and it's calling you home. It's walking you home. So every breath is the sacred teaching. Every breath, you're chanting the sutra, the scripture. Inhaling, you let go of all limitations. Exhaling, you no longer identify as mind or body. Inhaling, you invite grace to flood your being. Exhaling, you give to grace all the limiting beliefs, all the disturbing emotions. You do this every moment. Inhale, grace received. Exhale, grace is extended or shared. So this is what we do when our minds become more and more one-pointed. But we are also at the same time in the process of watching carefully, because the other stuff is going to come back in. It always does. So you're on the lookout. When it does, you'll know right away, this is the ego. You might play with it for a little while and share that. But then you realize it doesn't feel that good. I'm not going to give it so much reality anymore. I'm actually going to choose to see it differently. I'm going to let it go. This is vital to coming back to what is always the true state of existence. Everything is singing the glory of God. So in A Course in Miracles, this is the last leg of our journey this evening, he has 3 important workbook lessons that we'll just touch in on that are so keyed in to this. The first is workbook lesson 132. I loose the world from all I thought it was. I let it go. All right? The word loose, I really believe Jesus in the Course is echoing the story of Lazarus in John's Gospel. Because Lazarus comes out of the tomb after 4 days of being dead. Jesus raises him from the dead. And as soon as he comes out of the tomb, the only thing Jesus says when Lazarus appears is, loose him. In other words, take off the grave clothes. And so that's what this world is, my friends. We have wrapped ourselves in a cocoon of grave clothes, of thoughts, feelings, images, emotions, experiences, traumas, and dramas that have cocooned us in this cloud of guilt and fear and suffering and wanting and never getting. These are the grave clothes of the world that we think we're living in. Wars and genocides and pedophile networks. These are all the grave clothes. We let them go. We loose them. He says, what keeps the world in chains but your beliefs? And what can save the world except yourself? Capital S, what Hawkins was just describing as the presence. In other words, you're that presence. There's no one else other than the presence, except when we're wearing our grave clothes. We really think the ripple exists apart from the ocean. This ripple is called John. And this ripple has its own story. And when it talks to Dave, it sees only another ripple. And Dave agrees he's a ripple. And so John and Dave have conversations about what it's like to be in a ripple world, covered in grave clothes. This is what we do. And don't kid yourself. We get pulled back in. There's a force, there's an impulse to go right back into it. Right? So this is why we have to keep loosing it. Let it go. Unwind from it. He says, what will save the world is yourself. Belief is powerful indeed. The thoughts you hold are mighty, and illusions are as strong in their effects as is the truth. A madman thinks the world he sees is real and does not doubt it, nor can he be swayed by questioning his thoughts' effects. It is but when their source is raised to question that the hope of freedom comes to him at last. That's meditating. You go within. You stop looking at the appearances of your thinking and all of the world events and the people, and you go in and you go to the root of your thoughts. What is this self that's thinking these thoughts? What is the nature of these thoughts? And when you're looking dispassionately in that clarity of your meditation, you begin to dissolve these shallow roots of your false thinking. And then the effects naturally begin to weaken. This is for your sanity. This is for your peace of mind. The other is, the name of God is my inheritance. And listen to this. So Jesus tells us, in what we were just discussing this whole time, about the nature of this world, right? The above and the below. He says, think not you made the world. Illusions, yes. But what is true in earth and heaven is beyond your naming. This is the self that fills all things. The chairs sing it. The rivers chant it. This is the self appearing as this world, but we can't see that. When we're in the ego thought system, we only see our illusions. We don't see this world of the sacred self. This is why we must loose the world from all we thought it was. Now he goes on. He says, what's true in heaven and earth is beyond your naming. When you call upon a brother, it is to his body that you make appeal. His true identity is hidden from you by what you believe he really is. His body makes response to what you call him. For his mind consents to take the name you give him as his own, and thus his unity is twice denied. For you perceive him separate from you, and he accepts this separate name as his, and thus continues this ancient hatred. And lastly here, so remember the ground that we've covered tonight with the teachings of Zen Buddhism, the experience of David Hawkins, and know that this is the golden thread that is running through all of these sacred liberation teachings. Listen to it from A Course in Miracles perspective. This is lesson 252. The Son of God is my identity. Now listen to this. Myself is holy ground, beyond all the thoughts of holiness of which I now conceive. Its shimmering and perfect purity is far more brilliant than is any light that I have ever looked upon. Its love is limitless, with an intensity which holds all things within it. In the calm of quiet certainty. Its strength comes not from burning impulses which move this world, but from the boundless love of God Himself. How far beyond this world myself must be, and yet how near to me and close to God. And now the prayer. Father, you know my true identity. Reveal it now to me, who am your Son, that I may awaken to the truth in you and know that heaven is restored to me. Right? How does above and below come together? How does time and eternity come together? How do your soul and God marry? You must invite it. You must empty and receive it, right? Ask and it is given. So as you breathe in this energy, this infinite power of grace, of enlightened Buddha nature. Allow that to come in and fill every cell, every pore, and then hold that inhale and feel the charging of your system. And as you exhale, release all darkness, all thoughts of hatred, greed, sadness, fear, anything that's holding back this opening of the heart. See it dissolve into empty space as you exhale. And then again, inhale this enlightened current from the top of your head, through your nostrils, through every pore. Bring it in like a spherical breath. In, hold it, charge the system. And then as you exhale, release all thoughts of ego, separation, division, lack. Again, inhale wholeness, presence, love, divine. Hold it, charge the system, and then give that to all living things. Give that to the floor and the chairs. Give that to the walls and the clouds. Anything that comes immediately to mind, you're extending this grace, this love light and bliss. Again, inhale the grace, and whomever you think of that may need it, that may be calling for it, could be anyone. Let the higher self show you whom. As you exhale, extend that light, that love, to the one who's calling and crying for it. With each new inhale, charge again with the grace light. And with each exhale, keep extending it to the one that's been calling for it and see their field of energy being uplifted, infused with presence in the form of healing that they may need at this time. And as you bring your hands to heart, we just honor everyone here and joining us on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you for being in this conversation. Thank you for willing to awaken to this truth of you and all of us, to be a light in the world and to shine away the darkness that cannot withstand who we are when we know ourselves. Namaste, my friends. Blue bag's going to go around. So next Friday we are having our service because there is the gala event here on Saturday. So we are having to do it on Friday at 5 p.m. So if you can make it, just be aware of the new day and time just for next week. We'll be back to Saturday on the following.
What are you doing in this room? Or?
It'll be this room.
Oh, really?
Yeah. As far as I know, they're going to set up in the morning.
Oh.
But here, we charge this offering with the intention that it may reflect and emanate the presence of divinity in whatever form it may take to remind us of our true nature and our true life. And so it is. Amen. All right, let's rise, seal the deal. Coming to that still moment, let everything slow down. Touch that inner silence of the heart where the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Amen. Have a beautiful night, everyone. Thank you so much.